Phil, when you look at the summer window and the activity, Atleti yet again being very busy, spending over 100 million euros to try and get this thing over the line. Last season, getting to a Copa, final, Copa del Rey final, losing to Real Sociedad, also falling short in the UEFA Champions League semifinal, I believe, to Arsenal. So how much pressure is there on Cholo Simeone this campaign, given how much money has been spent?
Yeah, it was the same as last season. I mean, last season they spent loads of money, made some really high-profile signings, and they finished 25 points behind Barcelona. Atletico Madrid have to compete. They don't have the obligation to win La Liga every season like Real Madrid and Barcelona do. But they have to compete, and in the league, they did not compete last season, as we said, ending up 25 points behind. That's because they prioritised the cups, but then they didn't win either of those cups either, and that Copa del Rey final defeat to Real Sociedad was monumentally damaging to Atletico Madrid and Diego Simeone, because if you win a bit of silverware, then you've got some silverware to grab onto, but they didn't. There's pressure on him in so much as people want to win, but there's not pressure in he's going to lose his job if they don't win, because he's got a job for as long as he wants the job. He is not going to be fired from Atletico Madrid. He will walk away when he feels like he can't get anything more out of the squad. But I heard him speak before kickoff today. He said, "No, okay, I'm here again. I'm excited. New season. I'm ready to go." So he seems up for it. And I wasn't too high on Atletico Madrid, it has to be said. I've been thinking about it the last few days, and I've been thinking maybe these signings, they're not quite as headline-catching as some of the other signings they made in previous years. Maybe these are signings that could improve the squad in a more nuanced way. And if Kang-in Lee can perform, I think he can be a big signing. That's a big if, by the way, because I actually tipped him to be my flop signing of the summer on Morning Footy when we were talking about this a few days ago. So I'm doing a 180 here. But I think that he's a player. If he improves his numbers, and his numbers are poor in La Liga. This was his 112th game in La Liga and his 10th goal. For someone that talented, those numbers need to improve. If they do improve, he could be a key player for Atleti in La Liga. But like I said, it's a big if, because what we've seen previously from him in La Liga doesn't necessarily lead me to believe it's going to happen.
Yeah, Phil, we have talked about in the past, Barcelona, they have holes. They don't have a number 9, right? Real Madrid's midfield is pretty weak at this point. They're probably going to strengthen it, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen with them. The biggest question for me with Atleti coming in, I mean, there is balance in this squad, but this Julian Alvarez situation, not even on the bench today, not available for Cholo. How long do we see this dragging out and potentially being a story off the field?
I think we're going to see him in the next game against Villarreal at home. Maybe not start, but I think he's going to be on the bench, and then all eyes and all ears will be on how the home fans receive him at the Metropolitano. Remember, this kind of situation has happened before. Antoine Griezmann left in very controversial circumstances, came back in very controversial circumstances. People were not happy at all, and he managed to win them around. Marcos Llorente signed from Real Madrid. People weren't necessarily very happy with that, but he managed to win them around. The Atletico Madrid fans can be won back over, but at the moment, this is a huge dark cloud hanging over Atletico Madrid's season. How can it not be? Their best player, their number 1 guy, the guy that they're going to build the team around, says he wants to leave. And he's not going to leave. They're not going to let him leave. So he has to change his mentality, knuckle down, win the fans back, and get his mindset on being a player that is going to be influential for Atletico Madrid, which, by the way, last season he wasn't. Scored 8 goals last season. He went 4 months without scoring. He wasn't their top guy last season, and yet the club stuck by him, which is why I think it hurt when he came out and made those comments about wanting to leave. But he's not going anywhere. The club have said, this is resolved. We're not selling you. Knuckle down, get back to work, and I think he will. But it's going to be a process. And while they get into that, get through that process, they need other people to chip in with big goals and big performances like Kang-in and Álex Baena today.
Yeah, Phil, when you look at Malaga, I want to give him some love, because we talked about them being back in La Liga after 8 years of an absence. What did you make of their performance, and what does it mean to have them back in Spanish football's top flight?
Yeah, I thought they were really, really good today. Really brave performance from a Malaga side. It's a really youthful team. 6 players in the starting 11 are from the province of Malaga, so it's local lads playing for their local team. They've come through the youth academy. The manager used to be the manager of the B team. He knows the club inside out as well. They've spent money on one player in the last 10 years. Every other signing has been free signings or promoted from the youth academy. So this is a club that has had serious issues. 3 years ago, they were starting the season in the Spanish 3rd division. They came back up, and now they're back in the top tier. It's a brilliant city. It's a brilliant fan base. 2,000 of them were in the Metropolitano today. And if they play like they did today, with daring, bold, attacking football, they're going to be the credit to La Liga that we think that they should be. So delighted to have them back, as we are to have Racing Santander and Deportivo La Coruña, 3 historic clubs all getting promoted back into La Liga. And today I thought Malaga did really, really well. Just in the final third, they need to be a little bit better, a little bit more clinical and intelligent. But in terms of their attitude and their performance and their approach to the game tonight, it was refreshing and exciting to see.
Agreed. Not an easy place to go and play. And in the Metropolitano, they excelled. Thanks so much, Phil. Always appreciate the time. Enjoy it.
Pleasure, guys. Thanks.
Mike, you heard Phil's take. First of all, I'm not sure you can really take much from the performance before some of the heavy hitters check in, right? I mean, Marcos Llorente doesn't come in until just into the second half. You had, of course, Lee Kang-in checking in, Álex Baena. Those were all later on. What did you make of what we saw, though? Because it was never going to be an incredible performance, I think. But at the same time, 2-0, 3 points, you say, job well done.
Yeah, coming off a World Cup, it's all about getting results and getting players up to speed. And this is a big season for some of the new players that have come into the club. You go back to 12 months ago, Atleti spent big in the summer window, and the majority of those players were a flop. I look at players like Thiago Almada. I thought he was a bust. So many players you go through that have come in, except for Adamo Lukman, that was a slam dunk. You saw his performances against Barcelona last campaign in Copa del Rey and Champions League. He was a Barcelona killer against that high line. Going through today's lineup, there are some players that are getting their debut. Now, Phil mentioned Dominguez, a historic moment for him, becomes the youngest player to represent Atleti in Spanish football's top flight. One player I want to give flowers to is Arnau Ortiz, who comes in and gets his debut. I thought he was solid, doing the little things that young players need to do to get the crowd and the fans on your side. One player that I thought is going to be so important for Atleti, he missed 14 matches last campaign, Pablo Barrios. To see him come to life when some of the new players came in, to see him linking up with Kang-in Lee, to see him linking up with Álex Baena, Atleti fans will want to see more of that moving forward. The schedule is not kind to them, but Cholo Simeone won't care one bit because when they get the likes of Cuti Romero back in the team, then we'll know it's full-blown heavy metal football.
I mean, did you see that bench? They're never going to field that 11 again the entire season. And they still got all 3 points. So Atleti could have a year to remember, but there's a lot of football still to be played.